All right, being 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. First order of business is the pledge to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You approve the minutes of April 5th.
So moved.
Motion in a second. Any further discussion on one? If none, all those in favor? Everybody. Members reports, we'll start with Lindsay.
Anything?
No. Okay, none. Okay, nothing. Man. That's something. Saw somebody doing a good job, and I can't remember who now. Yeah, either way, so no, I don't have anything. So we'll just go right into the town manager's report.
Okay. Proposals for IT services due May 10th. So far, we've had 2 site visits to receive 2 proposals, not synonymous with each other. We have plenty of vendors that are lining up expressing interest, so that's good there. Food drive personal care item collection, that's continuing through the end of the month. That's here at the town office or at the schools. We are still accepting applications or requests rather for the spring work day that's being put on by the students at the high school. That's May 12th. They're going to have over 140 students available right now. They say they only have projects for 40, and I think all of that's here in Norridgewock. So anyway, we have folks that have signed up, and that could be spring cleanup, it could be stacking wood or anything like that for folks that are physically or financially in need. And I think Waste Management is going to be sponsoring a lunch for those kids, so we thank them for that. And I think the plan is going to be, as we get a little closer, the office will close, staff will put on the barbecue for these kids down to the snack shack and do something for them there. Is kind of the plan that we're ironing out now. We have received the preliminary request from the union regarding negotiations. The current contract for the unit expires in December. So this was simply a 120-day notice is what they've called it, requesting information. With the new members on the board, I'm going to be putting together binders, obviously confidential. They will have the existing contract in them in the process of, which is not confidential, but the parts and pieces for negotiation, so that you're able to review that, ask questions. All of that takes place in executive session. So as we get closer to that, I'll have those available for you. The first round of updates to the junkyard tracker, they are included in your file, in your report. As of earlier today, we were at 27. We're now at 28. And that will continue to grow and be tracked, hopefully. So there's still some gaps on that in terms of digging back historically to when they were initially reported and when visits were conducted. But it's a work in progress, and we're going to continue to get that in front of you so that we're honest to ourselves. Main laboratories here on Main Street, that's Dr. Baker's former office. The now PFAS testing facility is hosting a ribbon cutting with the main chamber tomorrow at 4 o'clock. The public is welcome to attend that. That'd be short, 15-20 minutes probably, unless you want to linger around. Also had the opportunity last week to meet with representatives from the Chamber of Commerce in Waterville and the new president and CEO of the Maine State Chamber of Commerce to discuss things that were of importance to us. One of the things that did come up was PFAS and the importance of staying to that, understanding that it is an issue, but not over-regulating our businesses at the same time. Right now, there's legislation in the pipeline that is going to really drastically changing things effective the first of the year. So we can't be irrational about this. We also know that it's something that exists, but it's existed for a long period of time, and they just saw it making emergency. So they wanted folks that are impacted by that to go and speak. And so that was kind of the role that I played there. Next week, I have a meeting with DOT, a representative from the Warden Service. I think Brian Brotza from the ATV program is going to be there. Regarding the Sportsmen's Association's request to open state routes as trails. There is significant pushback. There has been bureaucratic delays by Department of Transportation because they just don't want to address it. I've indicated that we're very passionate about it. It offers economic development opportunities for us. Very likely we'll seek a piece of legislation specific to the town to allow this if they deny that. So they know that we're serious about this. There continues to be pushback. But I've done some mapping of local roads and whatnot, and what the access on state roads would get you. And I think we're gonna have very few sections of road that we're going to actually need them to address central to town. So it would leave River Road, Skowhegan Road without access from the further edges, the outer edge of Waterville Road, that gets to the diner on Waterville Road, things like that. So we're gonna hopefully iron that out next Friday, figure out what their position is, what law enforcement's position is going to be before we get too far ahead of ourselves. So we'll see and keep you posted. Applications for TIF committee membership are being accepted through May 10th. We've got a good stream of those coming in so far. TIF committee meets next Tuesday. What's on their agenda? We've got the very likely the request from the sewer department for mapping to overlay GIS for the network. And that would be paired naturally with the water district's portion. And then also paving of the parking area at the airport outside the gate for public parking access to that secondary gate and then through to get you to the taxi lane. That's the preliminary thing for a potential automated gate on that side to enhance safety at the airport. The gate would be paid for 95% grant funding. So that's going to go through its process starting next week. The tomato event hosted by the library, sponsored by the library, hosted at the Grange is Saturday at 10:30. The trustees are meeting tomorrow afternoon at 3:30. The dock at Usula Park should be in before the end of next week. That was delayed with snow melt in the mountains and not wanting to damage what we've got. So that should be in next week, hopefully early next week. Public Works is going to work to build the portable toilet structure for Ashland Park. Getting together the materials order earlier today, so we'll put a slab in and go from there. But that should be a cost savings there. The claim on the boiler replacement, the fire department, that's still going to ensure awaiting investigation results from their third party. Hopefully we'll have more at the next meeting. Haley Ward, which is our primary engineering firm, they are overseeing the Father Isle stabilization project. They are going to be willing to manage our $2.5 million in congressionally directed spending that we got through housing and urban development. That is an overload of paperwork. It's over my head largely, and there's a high risk of not being compliant. And if we're not compliant, then we end up forfeiting money or spending money that's not eligible to be reimbursed. So I think that's a smart investment. They're going to do that for us, even though we already have Deerville Engineering in on Sandy River Road. They're still willing to help us. So we're going to move forward with that, and that should be a good thing for compliance and make sure that our monies and projects are moving efficiently. Roadside mowing proposals are due May 10th. So far, we've had 2 vendors express serious interest, and we've had 2 site visits on that as well. And then the state, evidently, through the rumor mill, the state is looking for people that are interested in roadside mowing. So that might be an opportunity for prospective bidders, proposers to reach out to the state and see what they might have to piggyback onto ours. Field day is scheduled for this Sunday. It was initially another week out. Thank you to Matt and Carrie for getting up the batting cage net. Just
I thought we had a couple other people, John Lynch,
perfect.
Scott Libby.
Excellent. I think that's going to be a great thing for these kids. It's going to maybe hopefully a little bit more excitement to have a batting cage that you don't have to go and throw quarters and whatnot. Just to have that right there. We've got the baseball and volleyball pitching machines, though. We're fortunate to have that.
And we do have cameras going to go up around there because
There
wasn't climbing it what ruined it last time or something like that.
Yeah, and they didn't have the roof on the top and things like that. So that was all pre-planned for that, and we'll be able to monitor that
Awesome.
right here.
Okay.
Yep. The GIS mapping that I had alluded to earlier, we've been approached by them to have our sewer network maps digitized. So that would be done in coordination with the water district project, which they've secured a grant through Main Rural Water, possibly. So that they would have a large share of theirs done, but they've asked us if if the water district could overlay onto our maps, which yes, that's great, doesn't cost us anything. And then if we were interested as a sewer department to do that. So I'm going to send that to the sewer commission to see if they find value. I think if they're going to, it makes sense to do it and invest in what we've already been investing in. And so hopefully funnel that through TIF as an effort to keep sewer at or around break even. And then we had a visit from USDA. Rural Development came to conduct a site inspection following up on the facility upgrade, making sure we're in compliance with all of their regulations. No deficiencies were noted during that visit. And the sewer commission will meet Monday, the 24th at 4:30. I also had late in the day calls come in from a resident and budget committee member expressing displeasure with the management of allocating funds for grant donations. The process last week, we were talking about nonprofit organizations, felt that it should be managed differently, maybe not so publicly, whether one agrees with that or not. I'm bringing that to you today, and then also expressing concerns about the TIF committee applications. Why we were requiring an application. We require a volunteer application for every volunteer position in the town. The TIF is a little bit different because we ask you to disclose bias, given the financial implications and potential business interests there. And there was also concern about background checks and the feeling that it was intended to suppress participation from the public, and that is in no way the intention of that background check. That does predate me. The policy was reviewed shortly after I got here. And the fact of the matter is we require it on all town programs. And when you talk about the TIF committee or rec or why it's here or why it's there, it's not always folks that are on the sex offender registry. That's available, that's readily available. We know that, but you have things about trust and integrity that could be on somebody's record, and you know, there's a pool of $600,000 or $700,000 there, and who knows? It's just not worth that risk. That's something the town has been dedicated to, and I don't think that it should be frowned upon or seen as an obstacle to participation. So that was what came in as a concern, and they asked me to bring that up and address that in the meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you for that. Did you have a question?
Yeah, just going back, does MLB stand for notice of violation?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone need help on Sunday with the field day?
Everybody's always welcome.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Good. All right, thank you for that. Moving forward, discussion action on. Right. Clearing warrant. Number ready.
I move that we approve general warrant number 8 in the amount of $318,515.43.
Motion in a second. Any further discussion? And do they give a discount or anything for pumping in Norridgewock still or no?
Stanley's is transporting a sludge to Anson Madison. And no, there's no discount, but there hasn't been an increase in their rates. Significant increase in the rates. We're saving money over what we were doing before.
But that old discount used to come from what, them being able to dump into our.
Correct.
Someone asked me about it, and I couldn't remember exactly how it ever worked, and I never used
That was
it.
before me,
Okay,
when we took in dumping.
so right now we don't, there's nothing we offer, there's no discount through any of it.
No,
What's the 131,000 for the USDA? What's
that's the sewer debt payment.
okay?
Anything else? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's everybody. All right, discussion action on April 19th, airport warrant number.
So we approve airport warrant number 4 in the amount of $7,732.48.
Motion second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's everybody. Discussion action on April 19th, sewer commitment.
Move that we approve the sewer commitment in the amount of $23,211.10.
Second, motion second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Everybody, public comment? Nothing, yes, okay. Sure. All right, we'll move right into the presentation by Waste Management. Yes, please.
Not really a presentation, but when we
Oh my goodness.
negotiated the phase 14, which would be our newest landfill that we're presently building, post agreement with the town, one of the things we discussed doing with the then board was coming in at the first of every year and going over the previous year, going over complaints, General information. Share with you what we have going on, questions and answers, and right now we have a lot going on, but just to keep communication open and show you what we've had, and any concerns you might have, and leave it from there. Elsie's new. Sherwood McKinney.
Hi, nice to meet you.
He's our engineer.
Oh,
I'm Jeff, which we've met, and so I have a handout for each. I have met Ron, but I'll leave one with him. So for full transparency, one of the things we discussed during the process was, what do we generally have that people don't know about for calls in, complaints, concerns? So as minimal as this sounds, I went back, and the way we did this, we said we'd do this when we actually move into phase 14, which in all honesty, we'll move into phase 14 probably in September. Yeah, ish. We've had a very good, Sherrod will talk about construction in a minute. I don't want to take his field day there, but we had a very good, long and good weather season last year, getting started. It's been a favorable winter, and we're already going bonkers right now. So things are going on well. So what I did, we have a very simple odor complaint log, and I do other things too, but I went back over the last 12 plus months. So in December of 21, I took a call. Actually, I took a couple of texts. I think one from Richard and one from maybe Matt. There was concern that that particular evening, the landfill, and this was like at 8 o'clock in the evening, that the landfill was really lit up, and a lot of light from a neighbor. I drove in. It was a low ceiling evening, a lot of fog, cloud, everything was down. And as I thought when I drove in, the BDS people, BDS Waste are the people that process tires on our property at the time. They have since moved to Fairfield, kind of behind the old Northern Mattress and Furniture building. You can see them now from the interstate out there. They built a very elaborate state-of-the-art facility to process tires. The intent a long time ago was that they would continue to do it here with us, but they needed to invest significant monies in a building. And that didn't make sense on our property, and there's not enough power for them locally here to operate the machinery they needed. So those two things alone made them so that they moved away. But anyway, that particular evening about 8 o'clock, they had some light bars rented and what have you, and the area was just lit up bright. And because of the low ceiling and the fog, it kind of illuminated the whole area out there and made it look kind of funky. So I drove in. I happened to be home that evening and reported back to Richard and Matt that what it was, and no concern, really. From that day on through the year 2022, we had no call in concerns or complaints over the phone to either myself, Sherwood management staff, or what have you. Not hard, maybe difficult to believe, but not one. And we log them all. We log them all seriously. We write down who it was, when they called, where they were. And if you read through this and you'd like something a little different, be more explanation, let us know. We had one this year. The one, when I made the copy, got taken out, but on January 30th at 3:49 a.m., we did receive a call. It came in from Wilder Hill. The people that called in are there. I don't need to name them, but you can read it. It was a legitimate odor concern. We went in, determined that the gas plant that processes the gas from the methane pulled from the landfill had a mechanical failure, and it was shut down. And some of the gas was getting out. We fixed the plant, remedied the solution, and we've not had any challenges since. That concludes the log for that period of time. And if you don't need to, if you have anything you'd like to see differently, let Richard know, and we'd be more than happy to address it and make changes if need be. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm sure people have said they drove by a sludge truck, smelled it or what have you and let it go. I'm sure there's probably somebody, I talked to your husband, and he said, I've smelled the landfill before. If it's problematic, please call and we'll look into it, you know, whether something didn't get covered appropriately or the plant's down. The process is all the methane from the closed landfills and active landfills pulled to the plant and burned off. We have two Cat 20-cylinder engines powered by methane that spin a generator and send electricity out on the grid. So we're there the door's open. I live here. Majority of our staff live here. And every morning, we have a tailgate session at 6:45 to 7:15 and talk about what we see, whether we see litter and employees driving in, challenges, things, problems, talk about it, go try to address it or what have you. So doors always open. No secrets. So then from there, what we thought we would do is go on with a couple of projects that we have going on at the site. We have a new transfer station being built. You have a map in front of you of what the design will look like. The area is cleared. If you go to our existing back gate transfer station, I will tell you, I'm in my 31st year. Sherwood's in his 33rd, I think. We outgrew it 30 years ago. And finally, we're building a nice new facility. We toured this, you know, and we've been in before and talked about this, but we toured the state, we toured a few places in New Hampshire. We found something that we thought would flow, get people in off Airport Road, so that traffic isn't stacked out there. It would be a circle pattern, so people aren't backing in around one another and then exit out the road and leave. And this is what it'll look like. Its final permit should be from the state in May.
Yes.
May 10th.
Yeah, May 8th is the latest, yeah.
And Sherwood put out bids. Ranger was awarded the bid to do the construction. As soon as we get the permit, things will start cranking on that. We hope to have it open this fall.
Is it going to be where the current transfer station is?
Just beyond it.
Oh.
If you drive in now, you go over a hump and start down and then exit to the left. Just beyond that on your right, you'll see a cleared area behind an old tractor trailer box.
That's a good.
I should have highlighted it. But it'll be a horseshoe type environment where you drive into the right, the attendance building will be there. You'll have a compactor for recyclables first, because the state thought we should address recycling first. And next you'll have an MSW or trash compactor, and then open tops that'll be covered to keep stormwater out so that we don't have any leaching getting away or what have you. It's a new stormwater regulation that we're working on. We'll go into circular pattern out and around. There'll be a universal electronics waste building where we will have an actual formal building with a couple of garage doors where we can put in electronics waste, what have you, tires, metal. We're going to have composting area and we are going to start. We've been working. We haven't. I guess you can't be surprised, but I actually interviewed a college student. She interviewed me recently, and in a community where everything is free for solid waste, it's hard sometimes to get people to change their habits to do things that don't affect their financial means. So we're going to work on increased education and see if we can get people to recycle more. One of the big things within the state of Maine that hasn't had much addressed over time is composting. Part of our permit is we're going to have backyard composting available here for us, for people that bring in food waste. Then we'll make compost with it using horse manure. We're getting help from Guy Mark King that we brought in from the DEP to speak earlier. And then we'll make that compost available to people, take home for their beds and what have you. And it should be clean and free of any PFAS, but that's another whole story that I don't want to get into, but because it's a mess. I don't know what you would have for questions with that, but you'll see a lot of activity starting mid-May.
Very cool.
Yeah. Next, we have a site map, and I did highlight where phase 14 is. And that highlight comes in off of Route 2. Goes in now just beyond the office and scale house and goes into the right where BBS used to be, then goes out and back. And that area is more, kind of central to Airport Road and the existing facility. And we're going to be building phase 14A first. And something to know, and I know Richard hasn't asked, but part of our host benefit agreement, we pay you folks a per ton rate for all the tonnage that we put in the landfill. Presently, it's $3.25 for waste landfill and 50 cents a ton for revenue generating cover materials that we get approved to put on the landfill for cover afterwards. We typically take those materials a lot cheaper than you would regular waste streams, so that you're not out taking a non-renewable resource like sand from a gravel pit and buying that to come in and cover the waste. There have been waste streams like ash, some sludges years ago, not so much now. Some contaminated soils are approved for cover. When we bid on jobs like that, it's usually considerably less than like a regular waste stream. And we pay less on the per ton rate to the town. But my point of all this is, as we move from what we call phase 8, which you can see on your map is down here into the bottom left. Phase 8 only has right now about 380 or so thousand tons of waste remaining. And I've had a lot of friends ask me how busy we are and just how it works in our business. Typically, we budget and do about 450,000 tons a year of waste streams that we take into the landfill. About 2 years ago, we realized that if we can't, well, we realized it long before then, but we started ratcheting back our tonnage, because if we continued at that rate, we would fill up sooner than phase 14 got built. So we started pushing materials away to competitors. We pushed materials to a facility of ours in New Hampshire. And last year we did about 365, 70-ish, 80.
Yeah. Makes sense.
300, we'll call it 370. We budgeted to do 350, but the good news is, in our business, we manage space, and we survey the landfill quarterly. So that if in the month of March, January, February, March, we'll do this first quarter this year, because we took about 75,000 tons of material through the door. In our business, we manage space that we build. So our goal is to, for every ton of material that comes in, to try to only take up a cubic yard of space. And if we do a poor job in our business and don't do a good job compacting, we take in 75,000 tons of material in Q1, and we might take up 85,000 tons of space. So powers to be would go, Jeff, sure, what the heck are you guys doing? What do you got? And you go out and observe how you guys are compacting, and we put lifts in on a daily basis at like 1 foot to 2 feet high, and pack it and pack it and pack it. And we have this thing in our business called wheels up. So those big, large compactors that compact our waste that weigh about 100,000 pounds with the steel wheels, if they're wallowing around in the waste like this, they're doing a poor job. And if they're riding up on the waste, nice and like this, you know when you see it and observe it that they're doing a good job compacting the waste. And larger landfills that do a lot more business than us have it GPS in their machines, and it'll tell them, red, green, good, bad, and you're saving on fuel. You're saving on a lot of things that way, and we don't have that luxury here, but that's what they do in other waste management facilities. But it's almost a visual thing. Put in small lifts, compact it, wheels up, doing a good job, walling around, poor job. And at the end of the quarter, the proof's in the pudding. If we take up, so what we found last year, when we took 370,000 tons of material in, we took in less than 370, we took up less than 370,000 tons of airspace. So we ended up doing a very good job conserving and managing our space, so we're able to, in the end, take a little more. So at the end of the day, budgeting wise, which we pay the town, is a little less than the past. You're getting more money per ton, which is good. And eventually you'll see more tons, more money. You won't see us go crazy. It's a budgeted process. It's not like, but just if that doesn't make sense and we're going too fast. Glad to have you come out and show you, but we manage space and we do a poor job. They find new Jeffs and Sherwoods. We do a good job. We so on and so forth, you know. And, you know, some of this plays into that as well. Good job, bad job. So, and as we go into phase 14, right now you're at 3 1/4. Our agreement with the community, when we move into phase 14, you immediately go to $3.80 a ton for every ton we take in, with a 3% escalator until we get to $5 a ton, and then it goes to 1%. So on and so forth, but it'll be a significant amount of money as things continue. So with that, I'll let Sherwood update you folks on construction, and if I've confused you, call me or come see me. And I didn't even hear. But you know, at the end of the day, it's not real difficult. You know, by trade, I'm not an engineer, I'm an old school teacher. And it's, you know, it's do a good job, make it look good, make it run good, and it is. Do a poor job and bite you.
Yeah, so let's talk about construction. We said here in February of 2021, and we're able to obtain approval from the site plan review process. And then in May of 2021, the solid waste permit was provided to us by the DEP. So we didn't waste any time. We got after it in 2021. And what we did in 2021 is essentially we just moved materials. It's kind of unfortunate, but back in the early 2000s, Jeff just talked about phase 8. When we were constructing phase 8, we had a borrow source on site that's within that limit now of phase 14. So we're actually taking some materials out of that area, some sandy materials. They're bringing it to the construction site, and they had some soil material around the construction site that wasn't usable. We always referred to as unsuitable soils. So they'd load the truck back up and send them back. So they brought this unsuitable soil within the phase 14 footprint. In 2021, we thought we had 180,000 cubic yards of this material to move. It ended up being almost 400,000 cubic yards of materials because it wasn't as good survey records back then. So that's essentially all we did in 21. Sergeant come in and they just essentially moved the material to on-site locations where we could take on more fill.
You see some of that out on in the bigger field of Route 2,
Baker.
where we move, we call that the Baker field, the front Baker, where we moved unsuitables out, reseeded,
Part
reshaped.
of the berms for your project.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. So in 2022, Sergeant is our earthwork contractor doing the work for us. They've done most of our projects on site. They've been on site in 22. They constructed an access road to phase 14. They build the perimeter berm, which we refer to as a mechanically stabilized earthen berm. And all that means is, so what they did is they put down like this geosynthetics called GeoGrid. They lay it out flat and they put 9 inches of sand on it, soil, and they compact, and they put another 9 inches, and they take that grid and they wrap it. And they do that, so it's an 18-inch lift, and they do that to the 35 feet in the air. And essentially, when you look at the side slope of it, it's almost vertical. So our landfills start here. If we build a traditional berm at 3-to-1, then we don't get as much capacity in our landfill. But if we're able to go more vertical on our outside berms, then we get more capacity in our landfill. They're very expensive to build, but they do make financial sense. So that was their focus in 22. They showed up here in 22 in April, May, and never left. They were here through the entire year. We've been working diligently on constructing phase 14A. So in January, we thought we were going to get a little reprieve, but they've been on site since January 1st of this year. limited crew during, the tough time of the winter. But they're there today, essentially grading the base of the landfill, the clay portion to get it to grade, so we can build a liner system in a month or two. They've installed all the landfill gas header pipes. They've installed the leachate force main, all the stormwater piping and components. They've been very busy. We made great progress. We're really worried that, as Jeff said, we have limited capacity in phase 8. Right now, if we were to stay in phase 8, we have enough capacity to last us through about February, March of 2024. So this is really going to be kind of just in time construction for us. We're hopeful sometime in September this opens up. That's pending, weather, of course, and progress, but that's what we're hoping for. And we got no reason right now to believe differently. So that's a quick update. I didn't know if you guys had any particular questions for me.
I'm new, but what about, I feel like we're going straight from 8 to 14. What are the other phases?
So
Well, we didn't have a phase 13. Didn't make sense.
that was next. We had phases 1 through 12, and we didn't superstitiously did not want to have a phase 13.
13.
We did. We skipped 13 and went to 14. Yes.
Some of those other phases are already constructed, built,
Okay.
and some of them are closed or partially closed.
Okay,
As you drive in the landfill on this map, coming in the access road from Route 2, which is where your yellow line starts on your right, you come straight in. Where that road goes to your immediate right is kind of where the scale house is now. Just beyond that on your left is what we call phase 12. It's kind of an oblong shape that is fully closed. It's 12 acres.
No, that's a small one. That's 7. That's 18.
Okay.
when you say closed, does that mean it's full?
Full
Full,
cap,
cap.
closed. The next one just beyond it is phase 11. That's fully closed and capped. Going further in on the road, you'll see, well, the road kind of bends and does a little kind of an S. That's where our garage is and our landfill gas plant. And we have a small recycling center to the left of that. And then you have phase 8, and within phase 8, you have 1 through 6, 7, 8 we're running in, 9 and 10. Sorry,
No, thank you.
it's kind of weird, but that is what it is. Other things that we'll be doing this year that might affect the community, just so you're aware. Sergeant will be mining clay at the home of Dwayne and Kathy Farmer on Route 2, headed towards Farmington, half a mile up on the right, just beyond Frederick's Corner Road. So concerns there would be tracking onto Route 2. So we'll be at Sergeant to make sure that as they come and go, that they're properly managing. And this is an issue probably as much with the state as anybody, but just so you're aware, we've run out of clay borrow sources, and we've done areas in the community where other places have approved type clay. One of them happened to be them. We might have an area off of Frederick's Corner Road, just across from the ball field on ours, but the challenge there is it's a posted road in the spring, and if we had to ask, it might be a problem that way. But right now we're going to the farmers.
You just pay to reconstruct it.
Pardon?
We'll waive the poster if you pay to reconstruct it.
Sure. Well, one of the ideas years ago, long before Jeff McGowan was, and the company long before me bought all kinds of property on Frederick's Corner Road and out on headed towards Route 2. One of the thoughts was that they would come out Pion Road and work their way out to Route 2 that way, and that might have been an entrance once upon a time, but it never came to be. So anyway, I thought you should know about this Sergeant thing. We bought a piece of property on Airport Road. As you travel down Airport Road toward our transfer station in the airport, you'll see on your left before you get to Childs Road, an area that has been cleared. We bought that from actually my brother-in-law, Chris Clark. And we're going to borrow some sand from that area. So it is approved. Sergeant will be mining some sand there. probably coming out onto Airport Road, traveling down to our back gate area and in through. And we'll closely monitor, they will, but we'll be involved and make sure that it isn't a challenge for folks, but should know that as well. And can't think of much else for impacts that you ought to know about. It's kind of.
Good. Well, any questions for the board? If trouble, I knew you would. I think.
He's counting money.
Expected to bring to me. February, March of 24 is when you said capacity is gonna run out of phase 8.
Should, yep.
Okay.
We'll operate in both cells.
Okay, so this September of 23, when we're opening, anticipated open of phase 14.
Right.
Save money. We're expecting that our rate is going to increase in September of 23.
Yeah.
It should, yeah. As soon as we go into phase 14, whether we go into 8 or 14, your new rate will be the new rate of 380, regardless of whether it goes 8 or 14.
Right, once we start live.
Correct.
Okay, so that's anticipated in September.
It is.
Even though we're not gonna get capacity.
It is. And from a budgetary standpoint, right now, our internal budget is roughly 30,000 tons a month for the year. It'll exceed that, but right now we're working off of, Jeff and Cheryl would try to stay within a 30,000 because, you do the math and you're roughly there to get where we need to go.
That was really all that I had for questions. The two big things I think that people don't know about, the pine on the field, a lot of people do, a lot of people don't. But we're getting into baseball, softball season, so thank you to you and your folks.
We understand they're going to use it a lot more this year. That's what we've heard.
Yeah,
good.
We've already had our long crew out and prepped it. Turf is ordered. That'll get out as soon as it arrives. And we're going to mow and make sure that people can park across the street to get off the road. We've mowed an area over there, it's probably too wet right now, but we mowed an area over there years past to try to get people to use it.
but most people think that's a town field and it's not. You
No,
don't
it's
take care of that, so we appreciate that.
Erickson?
So Frederick Corner Road.
Oh, yeah.
Ball field up there, it's waste management.
Okay, well,
And they take care of 100% of all of that. And then the street sweeper, it's the quiet chore, but in the middle of the night or first thing in the morning, I can call Jeff and say, hey, and the next day they've swept our downtown for us at no cost. It's a luxury that we have because they have a street sweeper, but most towns can't do that unless they own a street sweeper themselves. So
Yeah,
very much appreciate it above and beyond all that you do on a regular basis.
try.
So
Welcome. Like I say, anything at all, call us. Most people know that. So, somehow I find the answer.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you.
You bet.
We'll do this
Thank you.
again next year. I can't think of anything else right now. But that's probably it. And we can do this anytime. It's doesn't matter whether it's the first of the year or whatever, but
Thanks,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
thank you.
Okay, moving forward, discussion action on fire truck purchase.
So you have no material in your packet on this item of business. And I am deferring to the fire, before fire officers. For their asks.
Somehow I got elected as spokesman. So can I approach as well?
Yeah.
Somehow I got elected as spokesman. Apologize, don't have anything in writing for you tonight, and I don't like to normally operate that way. But we've had some pretty late developments in fire trucks. So for some people new. A reminder, the town meeting vote that authorized the select people to enter into a fire truck contract. Essentially that we won't receive for a couple of years, right? And there was no dollar figure associated with that, but it gave you, the townspeople gave you the authority to do that. Why are we doing this? We've never actually done it this way before because these days it takes 2 years to get a fire truck, and that's never been true before. It's also true that prices are going up. Every couple of months there's a price increase. Every quarter anyway, there's a price increase, and here we are facing May 1st, and in May 1st, there's another couple % increase. So we're hurrying things along a little bit. It may feel that way, although we have been working on it in the background for 4 or 5 months. So, even as recently as a half an hour ago or so, we're at the station working with a list and where can we make savings, et cetera, et cetera. And we did meet with one fire truck vendor today. So where we're at right now is we have identified some savings from Pierce to get their quoted price down to, I'm going to give you round numbers because I don't have it in writing for it. I give you the exact number if you like. I promise I'll follow up with something in writing. But it's 463,000. Okay, so that's down from their quoted figure, and I'll not throw too many numbers at you because of the lack of paper at the moment. But it's down to 463,000 round numbers. That's for a Pierce truck. That's largely what we asked for. A few differences from that. We cut a few things out, things that aren't necessary, mostly things that doesn't affect the operation of the fire truck. Some of the glitter, if you will, some of the things like that we took out. And we identified today $13,000-ish of savings that got that down to the 263 number.
460.
263 would be great. 463, thank you. So I wish I had it in writing. So, okay, what else have we done? So we've worked pretty at length with a second fire truck manufacturer. And depending on who you talk to, these two manufacturers are 1 and 2 in the USA, we think. And you know, one would argue they were one and the other one, but the top two manufacturers, the Ford and Chevy, if you will. And we worked with them. They came in with a very competitive offer and have offered some very good things. Their number is 446. 446. Now, both manufacturers are offering a prepaid discount, and I would completely defer on that decision to people like Peter and Richard, whether the prepay a $200,000 down payment was worth it. It may or may not be. Last time it was. The whole interest rate situation is completely different today.
Yeah.
So with Pierce, we're at 462. 463 is the number I gave you. I'm rounding up, and 446. And if you subtract those, it's about $16,000, $16,000 difference. I did the math. It's about 3.57%. In the interest of having things work the same, having things drive the same, having things operate the same in terms of pumps and foam systems and things like that, we feel like that $16,000 is an ask that's appropriate. And we would ask for you, selectmen, to give approval to Richard to enter into a fire contract with Pierce's representative, fire truck contract. The name of that company is Allegiance. Allegiance Trucks, I believe, is the correct name. And I'm going to say not to exceed 463,000. It's the real number is 462,373, but half an hour ago I could have made a slip in a digit somewhere, and I'd ask for a little bit of leeway in case the math doesn't, but up to 463,000, and ask him to, you know, double, triple check all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit of a premium, as I said, about 3.5% over a competitor, but it's much closer to what we need and what we asked for. And a little advertisement, if I can take an extra minute, but we've been very frugal in the past around here with fire truck purchases, and I know these are big numbers. One was a federal grant, one we built ourselves. All in over there, all 4 fire trucks together, the town has less than $550,000 in fire trucks. I know this is a big number. I get that it's a big number. I'm a taxpayer too. But it's extraordinarily frugal compared to many. And it's a very good value for the dollar. There's towns out there, I'm not going to name names. There's plenty of towns out there that spend a lot more than that. This is a very frugal way to buy a first class #1 pumper 463,000 up to is the ask, and to let Richard work out that detail with Allegiance. And that is the consensus of the fire officers and the full-time staff.
Four-wheel drive.
It's two-wheel drive. I lost that battle again, Matt.
Was it significant cost increase?
50 grand
Really, 50 grand.
ish, 40 to 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is 2 times in a row. I mean, to give you, that gives you an idea of the frugality. I mean, we try to
Are any of the trucks four-wheel drive?
just the, it's a 1-ton truck, the small utility truck is 4-wheel drive. Last time around, I wanted 4-wheel drive, but it was 25,000 more. Darn, wish we would have taken it. It would be awful nice to have one that could go to every fire, no matter what the situation is. I've been here 28 years and we haven't not gotten to one yet, so maybe I worry about something that, you know, just trying to be devil's advocate, right, and prepare for the worst. You know, we had to give that up. This is not appropriate. It was, you know, an extra roughly 10%, and it's just not appropriate ask. Maybe next time. Probably not next time, because next time's a tanker, right? But
Yeah.
So that's the request. I'll gladly follow all this up with a summary write-up for you. This is your last meeting in April, and there's a price increase of 2% May 1st, trying to get ahead of that's another 10 grand, round numbers, and it's crazy. It's crazy.
What's the new truck? Is that a Pierce?
Yes, this truck that we're asking for,
Pretty much the same.
this truck we're asking for is as much of a duplicate as the one that we bought 5 years ago as you can get. There's some little differences, some things that we cut out. For example, the hydraulic driven generator. We have one, we don't need one on this truck, so we cut that out. Freightliner is making things differently now than they were 5 years ago, as is any manufacturer. So if I got my ducks right, the transmission shifter is a little different. It's one of those column shifters, which we're not big fans of, but that's where the industry's going, as opposed to push button on the dash. So Freightliner is going to do things a little bit differently. And Pierce, the same thing. They're going to do things a little bit differently, right? They use stainless steel screws here, but they used to use whatever, you know, I'm making it up, but to pass either one of them going down the road, I don't think you'd know the difference. The lighting package would be the same.
One truck, one fire, it jumps on a different truck, you should pretty much know.
That's exactly why I'm asking on behalf of the team for $16,000 more is the driver and pump operator familiarity. The pump works the same. The foam system works the same. The light switches are the same. That you're asking a lot of somebody who doesn't do that every day. Our full-time firefighters, they would learn whatever we bought them. We would buy them whatever. And that's their job. They'd figure it out, just like the people at the town garage, right? They'll figure it out if it's a little bit different. When you're asking people that don't do it every day to get out of the bed in the middle of the night and oh crap, what do I do? Matt knows.
I've been on like 14 years, but I still can't run a truck.
So to make
You run one truck 1 month and then you run another truck 2 months after.
right. I mean, maybe that one was at training and wasn't in a big pressure situation, and the fleet conformity argument has been one that I've been drumming. What's that worth? Very difficult to put a number to that. It's like, it's worth something.
Yeah, it is.
In this case, you know, we've tried really hard to make these apples and apples. They're not completely there yet. And we know that the number is in the $16,000 range. Right now, it's actually $15,599 if you're keeping score, but it's close, but it's a little more for the Pierce, it would appear. But I think we gain an awful lot of that back in terms of driver familiarity, fleet conformity, being able to operate things, you know, consistently from one truck to the next. And these trucks, you know, they have different missions. Yes, one backs up the other, true story, but one is primarily going to be a rescue pumper for, you know, rescue type operations, and one is primarily a structure fire pumper. So, you know, the same 5 people that might barrel into this one call and that one the next call. So there's some things to be gained from having those things operate the same. It's if we all were full-time people, it would be it wouldn't be as big of a concern, but we're not, and we probably never will be.
So are the trucks like that different? I think about like, I can get in my vehicle, I can turn on and drive it. Dylan's got a truck, I can get in his, it's different, but I can figure it out. Is it like that? I mean, it's not a lot of money, but it is a lot of money in the same sense. Like, is it that different that it's like, I don't even know how to start this thing? Like,
Right, but you get into Dylan's truck and you have to have it going down the road right now,
Right.
right?
You pull up to.
You don't have time to look at the stuff.
The fuel on the other side.
You don't have time to look. Sorry, that's the difference. It's not that, you're a smart person, you could figure out Dylan's truck, sure. But there's no time element to that
Yeah.
decision.
and it's not cost effective to like do trainings, pay people to train on like the new truck with that. I'm just trying to think if you were paying whatever hourly rate that we give like our volunteer people to come in and familiarize themselves with new equipment, would that be cost effective to bridge that difference?
Training can make up some of that, but nothing can replace the known repetition. It's there. I know how to I know how to get this pump running because it's exactly like that one. You can train all you want, and
Yeah, so you taking your class B, whatever license, then getting in to Mike Ober's dump truck. Totally different than what you trained on.
drive it right now. I
Right.
need that load of gravel on the ground right now.
Here,
Yeah.
but the PTO's down here, and these things have got pumps and water.
Levers and switches up the wazoo, right?
You know, there was like, it was 8,000 to get everybody like fully comfortable and training costs.
Yeah.
And then is that,
Even if that was true. We're not gonna have the same staff tomorrow as we have today, and so that's a never ending. And it's not to say we won't need to still train, obviously we will, but the training content is less if the familiarity is there. For that reason, that's what we asked for, was something extraordinarily similar to what we have. And there's a benefit to that. How much? Hard to say.
does having the first one, does that sort of give you guys the opportunity for the exchanging of parts between vehicles that you wouldn't have if you got the other one? Say if there's something small that like was on this one, you need this one, it's not hooked up and put on that. Would you not have that exchangeability if you got the $16,000 less one?
It's always gonna depend on what that part is and what the issue is, but there's certainly more interchangeable with two that are similar, more interchange, well,
That's
either.
value, I'm guessing, right? That's-
From a truck perspective, both of these were offering us the Freightliner, the exact same cab and chassis. So that's a push, but on the fire body, yes, is the answer to your question. If one part broke on this one and another part broke on that one, could you make one out of two? You could.
Or one spare part.
Exactly. So we felt like that was worth 16,000. You may disagree, but that's the ask. Up to 463,000, give him the ability or authority to sign a contract with Allegiance Trucks.
So we're looking for a motion to approve up to 463,000 for Richard to enter an agreement with Allegiance Truck.
And I would also give him some authority to work out whether he's interested in that. It's an 83.33 discount for paying $200K up front. Unless you already know you're not interested in it.
The interest
But I guess the up to takes care of
would
it.
be more or less than what we'd save doing that. I guess that's kind of what would have to be. Yeah, so if we're not making more money than that in the bank, it doesn't make sense to just.
We can put $4 million, $1 million in the bank at 4% without thinking about it. That's just going to this bank across the street on the shopping cart. Yeah. But no year-to-date return.
So you're not interested,
5%.
you're not interested. I just allowed.
We're gonna reduce the number. You would still want that up to, you still want the up to.
Agreed, and it would only reduce the number. It's a money thing at that point, so. Yeah, I'd say up to 463 in case I slipped a digit. We both did the math. I think 462, 373 is the number.
So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none on that, all those in favor? And that's everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I will follow up with a written summary of everything, a shortened version, summary version of what I just said, and get it to Richard by the end of the week. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Moving forward, discussion action on Borough Hill paving authorization.
Now,
Gotta go in the car wash, I don't even want my truck.
moving forward, thank you. So we have the phase 2 of Burl Hill Road project here, to complete. Pike was brought in on the project last year after we had secured pricing from multiple vendors. And I would like to continue with Pike to close this project out. A, with reputation, B, with price, and B, with timing. They have provided the price here in your deck to do your base plus surface, your shoulder gravel and the fine grade. They would be responsible for that. For the unit prices as presented, there are escalators and de-escalators. At least in the short term, we're seeing liquid asphalt prices go down, so that it may be lower than this. But they are also going to be able to get to this ideally before the 1st of June. This is also more than what we had initially planned, because the further end of that road needs attention. And so this does include the overlay so that there will be pavement from 139 to the Skowhegan town line.
Oh, okay, so it is all,
Yeah,
I feel better about that number.
We expanded it to overlay up and over the hill. Just for the, in it needed it.
So something like this, so this is obviously well over our like $5,000 or $10,000 we put in for things after we bid out, so I mean. That's a 355,000 is a big number to not have any competitive
Yep.
bids.
So I can bid it out and we won't have pavement on that road until September, October. Or we can move to phase 2 with the phase 1 contractor.
I feel like
It's a
we,
pleasure of the board.
yeah, we just keep getting in the spot where we're, convenience, and we're kind of backtracking on it, and I feel like I understand it completely from, yes, we want to get it done, we want to get it now, but in the same sense, there's a part of it that says we made these process and things here for a reason, so we followed them, so there couldn't be any sort of, any improprieties or anything like that, or giving it to certain people and stuff like that. So I just want to make sure that we have, not just like as you call it, the straight face test, just, if we're setting up policies and rules, either don't do that or like follow them, and we're not following them very regularly lately because of timing is what we keep using as our excuse. I'm just wondering like, how, we need to quantify this to everybody, like,
So it's tough, right? So the people who had complained about that, which I do feel is a very small group of people. But nonetheless, there was complaints made about that. And I think this will serve as a prime example. If we were to kick this, so the residents of those 2 roads, which are currently our only complainers about the condition of their road. And some did actually opt to not have it paved when it was originally supposed to be. But I think this will serve great. To where if we do put this out to bid, it will certainly come back into the higher number and will set the majority of the summer.
This is strictly Burl Hill,
Right.
not Bigelow.
So it doesn't, okay, I was told that you had both.
It was because that was the original.
Okay.
We asked for budgetary price from them for Bigelow Hill. That was for road committee. So I went back and asked them to revise that proposal to only be Burl Hill and to have the fine grade and the shoulder gravel. Because we want the project done as soon as we possibly can and get that road covered back up. Because if not, we're gonna start paying for car repairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's pretty steep grade too, so
It is. I'm getting both ways. I'm more than comfortable in my abilities and how we award bids. Not particularly concerned about what the public thinks. But it is, we're awarded. So if the board feels like they need to be cautious in awarding bids, then this may be the perfect one to really appease those who have those complaints.
I just think that we're not putting it out because of a time inconveniencing thing there. I just feel like we've entered a little bit of like a slippery slope with this kind of stuff. Like, I am sure that if we did put it out, we had bids right now, this is probably still the same one we're gonna go with. It's nothing to do with this contract or anything to do with that. It's just more that, we put these things in place like a while ago, and we're just, whenever it's inconvenient time-wise for us, we don't follow it
Is
anymore.
the policy written in a way that,
It's a board policy, the board can change it, the board can tweak it, and there's always the caveat at the end that says the board can modify based upon conditions.
okay,
So it's my obligation to defend me in my office, because I put this in front of you. And every one of these things comes in front of the board, and the board has always approved. We just authorized signing a contract on a fire truck with no questions asked about competitive
Yeah.
bidding process. There were negotiations, active negotiations with employees and 2 vendors. It did not go out for bid. If we would put it out for bid, we wouldn't get the truck that we wanted. We'd be paying $100,000 more, and we wouldn't have it in 2 years. We'd have it in 3. This is phase 2 of a project. Phase 1, phase 2. This was laid out by the road committee. The vendor was selected by competitive bid, not sealed bid. We went and sought prices from multiple, more than 3, I believe, and Pike was the proposer. They have a long-standing reputation, so this is reason 2, reputation. And reason 3 is timeliness. I think with all things considered, those 3 things combine to justify proceeding with Pike.
Okay.
So yes, we have got away from it. We approved it very shortly before the bid policy guidelines before COVID. And vendor availability, contractor availability is a huge reason why we don't bid things out. There are so many things, and I can develop the contract list and we can look at it. And if you want to bid package all of these things, we can do that. And you can hire me an assistant to develop all of these bid packages and manage them. They are super aggressive. The 3 gentlemen here administered this fire truck package. And it probably would have cost us 20 grand in administrative support to develop the bid specs to issue, work through, and get back. So while it sounds good in principle, to get something equitable when it comes to road construction or building construction, it's a bid package like this. It was 30 pages. There's a bid spec on the last fire truck.
Last 2, yeah.
Right. So we have to have that balance. And if that's how you want to allocate my time, then I work at the pleasure of this board, and I will do that. I think we have to be a little bit smarter.
I guess at a future meeting, could we look at that policy and like review it, just so like I know what it says and see if we still feel good about it and like. See what that caveat is at the end to see if we still feel good, not putting things up to bid when it's convenient for us. Can we also add talking about how we want to do philanthropic grants? Because I do agree that felt sticky and it might make sense to have like what do we actually need and
Right.
what are we looking for? Is it just out of the kindness of our hearts, or is there a number we're looking at? I don't know.
Yeah, and with our bid process, I think it would be helpful if we were very clear with, before we did it, we attached a dollar amount that we were saying it had to go out to bid for. I think that if we're going to deviate from that, we just put something in there and are very specific about if a job does not go out to bid, that there's very clearly like stated the reasoning why. So if, people can see X, Y, and Z. So when one of us gets called and is like, why did this go out to bid? It's very clearly right on all of our stuff. So the transparency is there. I think that's the piece that might be missing and getting some of like issues. Some people is just that lack of transparency. If we're very clear with the A, B, and C of why we did this, out of necessarily like the character we typically do it with, I think that would make me feel better. And I think that other people, if they understand the why a little bit better, when something deviates from the norm, I think it would make it a little bit easier.
Is there any way that the town has, group in here, that you could throw this at, just to like, hey, what do you think about, I don't know anything about, hey, this could be $80,000 high, $80,000 low.
Yeah, for sure.
So the price of shoulder gravel is expensive, but it's shoulder gravel in place.
Right.
The price for the fine grade is reasonable. Could we save money and do it in-house? Possibly, but then you don't get that guaranteed work. product.
Yeah, I mean, like the gravel is
So you want to fine grade it.
556 tons at 58. I mean, I can do that math and figure out what that is a yard. It's typically what I do. But as far as the 2-inch base and all, that the asphalt part of that, I don't know if the road committee had a buddy that did this. Or just some way of like,
So we take distance measurements and then you do your road width measurements, and then there's a calculator online.
they're like
You just Google calculator, asphalt calculator, and all there. And then you have the state of main tracks liquid asphalt prices, which is what this is tied to.
Yeah.
And then you Google main liquid asphalt prices and you'll pull up the sheet and every Monday they update it.
So
Changes that much.
Well, yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
commonly.
There's not really a way for them to shaft you per se in this setup.
Right.
No,
Bigger
it's-
project there might be, but in such a,
the quantity is estimated and they're committing to this unit price. So the unit price on your fine grade and your gravel is fixed. But the paving, items 1 to 2 are gonna be tied to price of liquid asphalt.
And is
And this
this,
says the baseline cost of the contract is liquid asphalt, $660. The average selling price is posted on the MDOT website.
and is this in a project budget?
It's in the capital plan budget,
Okay,
the road budget for the year, which is $750.
So what do we just need a motion to approve this bid? Is that what we're looking for?
To accept the proposal.
yeah, accept the plan also.
Okay, so I move that we accept the proposal from Hike Industries in the amount of up to the amount of $355,288.30.
So motion second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is everyone. Discussion action on appointments.
These are your annual appointments that expire each April. Every board and committee is being reappointed, with the exception of TIP, which we pledged will be appointed in May. We can do it in blocks by committee. If that works for you, works for us.
I have a question about the recreation committee.
Mhm.
So it says 1 seat, but there are 2 incumbents. Like, who's
That would be
covered?
my bad. It's 2 seats,
Okay,
both teams. Yeah.
thank you.
And are they just, are those particular ones seats, and did they both reapply?
No, those are just reappointments.
Just reappoint?
Yeah.
And it looks like there's a vacancy on the Parks Committee.
Yeah, the Parks Committee, if we had 10 people on the Parks Committee, we'd love it. But I mean, I have an 11-year-old on the Parks Committee. One of them.
She's 12, I'm sure.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. That's really, they oversee our bigger projects. They advise on, like the boat launch, we have a committee will agree to the boat launch. The Ashland Park, they consult on that, and then pretty much they're the issue is.
So are we gonna do a blanket, like move to appoint all of these, or do we have to do them by?
You have to do by office. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I will move to appoint Donald Carr, Charles LaVerdiere, Kenneth Morgan, and Howard Soul to the 7 seats of 1-year terms in the Airport Advisory Committee.
There's 3 more.
Oh, Glenn Davis, Dana Ledger, and Ronald Frederick.
Second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's everybody.
I move that we appoint Sharon Buster, Abigail Clare, Sherry Lewis, and Valerie Trial to 1-year terms on the Parks Committee.
Second, motion is second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's everyone.
I move we appoint Todd Pinio to the Norridgewock Water District Board of Trustees, 3-year term.
Second, motion is second.
What?
There's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Slow down.
That's everybody.
I move to appoint Amy Everett and Ryan Jones to 3-year seats on the Recreation Committee.
Second. Motion is second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I move that we appoint Becky Ketchum to the 3-year term on the Cemetery Committee.
Second. Motion is second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I move that we appoint Jeff Lloyd, Mike Obert, and Skip Biles to the 1-year term on Road Committee, Road Planning Committee.
Second, motion is second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's everyone.
We've got to do me at the top.
Oh. You sure?
Sure, you want all those titles.
Yeah.
I move we appoint Richard LaBelle to Road Commissioner, Town Clerk, Airport Administrator, Sewer Administrator, Tax Collector, Finance Director, Welfare Administrator, E911 Addressing Officer, Emergency Management Director, Cemetery Superintendent, Freedom of Access Officer, KV Cog, General Assembly Representative, KRDA First Park General Assembly Representative.
Some of that stuff we just mixed up. Motion is second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's it.
The ones at the bottom are typically held by members of the board.
It's usually vice chair.
What do I have to do?
You, I mean, nobody's ever showed up in that capacity. You can leave them stay or you can appoint them.
Does anybody want to do this?
You know, what birthday?
If Richard can't go, you two get to go.
Okay, noted.
Just so, KV Clark is Kennebec Valley Council of Governments. They do a lot of cooperative planning. For towns in the region, they can do ordinance review, things like that, comprehensive plans, they'll do GIS mapping conversions. They do a lot of brownfields, which is a grant program. For building cleanup, they have a revolving loan fund, they have a lot of stuff that goes on. This is typically one meeting a month, but only 8 meetings a year, Tuesday mornings at 9:30. And you just review that kind of stuff, they give you the updates. And then they have 2 meetings a year, usually in the evening, that's dinner and business.
But we haven't been attending these, is that?
I go,
You go, okay.
I mean, I was,
You want to take his place?
right, I was the president of KV Clark. for 2
On my
years.
dinner ones, I'll accompany you. Not many.
And then the KRDA first park, that's the business park in Oakland on the Waterville line, where T-Mobile is based in one of the main general offices. I don't participate in that enterprise. Not to go too far off the rails, but I don't believe in it, and I think it's a racket that's stacked up against the town of Norridgewock and favors those communities that abut it. Not terribly responsive to our needs, and over the course of the time since 1999, they've taken, probably $350,000 out of taxpayers' pocket here in Norridgewock alone, so
When are we done having to give them money?
never. So there is a town that I'm very familiar with that is in the process of removing themselves and saying, we're just done losing money. And we don't view it as an investment anymore. I'm keeping an eye on that because I think that that's something that Norfolk will deserve to consider themselves when that comes to fruition, without our town having paid the legal bill to pave the way.
So is that something that like is feasible that we can financially get out of?
Depending how that one
The
turns out.
KRDA first part says, no, you cannot. It requires literally an act of legislation from the State House. And the town of Rome, it's done in the paper, they or just insist that, no, this is the point, and it's all up to legal definitions for this and that, and you should let us go. If we can't, but if we can't, then fine, but if we want to, then you should let us, we're all towns working together.
Yeah.
So that's still playing now. There's no litigation actively right now, everybody's got an attorney.
Okay.
So we're gonna wait and see.
And what are we throwing into that every year? Do we have a yearly contribution and then?
Yeah, I want to say $16,000 or $17,000 a year,
And
but just this last year, they retired bond service. So that they're at the point of break even. But they then pay out, so we pay in 16, they paid us out 1601 or something like that. So now they're saying they're not break even because they're paying us out money. And the break even point is the point at which you can exit. But only with unanimous vote of all the other member towns. Right? Anyway,
it's interesting. This is you to know that it's actually bad, because I mean, it's been a substantial loss for, I don't,
it's an investment.
well, yeah.
Well, an investment pays off eventually, because it's going to.
But at least it's to the break even point, which is better than what we had seen.
Right, and you're only allowed to get out at break even. If they go and incur more debt, which is what is on the horizon, then you're locked back in again to service that debt for 30 years, 29 years.
Right, and
What were we ever supposed to get out of it? Like, what was why did we go into it?
So it was an oversold economic development venture. It had some prominent local people strategically placed in the area. And it was going to employ people and recruit people like T-Mobile and LL Bean and things like that. Well, it brought T-Mobile, which is great, but I don't know how many people are employed from Norridgewock there. Numbers tend to be very little. And then you've got Main General's buying up a lot of it. They've just announced a lot of solar development, so that's all pretty much going to come off the tax rolls. Yeah.
Is LL Bean still the biggest holder down in there of property?
No, like between T-Mobile and Main General, I would imagine.
Really?
Where is it?
Just office.
Right by Ray Haskell Ford.
Candy. Oakland.
Yeah, it's before that, it's like right where the light is.
Sean, you just take it right, go
Okay.
there, towards the island.
Anyway, it was,
Are little beans there?
no, they had bought land and we're gonna build this all.
Yeah, the bridge, that was the big to do.
And they
I can
were
have-
transitioning down by TJ Maxx, they were Tractor Supply is where.
Yeah, and it was just a call center.
And then they ended up closing the call center and shifting people to home,
Okay.
so. And they talk about dog parks and hotels and things like that, and the fact of the matter is that Waterville, Greater Waterville doesn't focus their energy sales for kind of on Main Street.
Mm.
And you can't blame them.
Yeah.
So we need to take better care of ourselves, so.
Well, and they had a very, I don't know the right word, the previous record that they had gotten rid of, I think had some great ideas that kind of fell apart and then they didn't carry forward, and I thought that was gonna bring good things to us, and then nothing came of it, and he's no longer there, and I'm not even familiar with who owns it now. We haven't seen, well, they used to come in and see us, yes, and now they don't, right? They used to come in every year, and we
Yeah, they stopped offering probably 5 years ago.
to do that, okay? So does anybody want to be that alternate?
I mean, you sold it, so wow.
Honestly, the reason why it's important to make sure that we keep me active on my appointment is so that you can go vote no when you need to go vote no.
Mhm.
Oh, your budget? No. And, send the message that way. And there's a block of voters, Solon's very involved. Stark's is very involved, and they want small towns where this money can make, if it's only 16,000 a year, it's 16,000 that we can spend on more job people.
Mhm.
And if it's a good business model, then it should be keeping itself afloat.
Mhm. You said we can let those just sit.
If you're really interested in learning more, you can reach out and I'll get somebody to talk to you from each of the organizations and we can appoint you at any future meeting.
Anytime you'd like.
Appoint you for the annual meeting in the evening and dinner.
Depends on the dinner, I guess.
Okay, moving forward, discussion action on 2023 roads for ATV trails.
So in your I guess in both packets, so your electronic packet and here, you have a marked up version of last year's document. Back in July or August of last year, the board voted, I believe unanimously, to open up all town roads as ATV trails. So that's what this document reflects. I also added in some language about familiarizing yourself with regulations. I talked with some folks from the Sportsman's Association about getting rule books here in the office, so that they're more accessible. The state's obviously shifting everything online. That's not, you're not wanting to follow and download the rules and regulations for ATVs and so on. So we need to make that easy for people. So my intention is to offer, print those up. It's 30 pages. If I do it black and white, they're a little bit better break even to sell them for $1 each and have that here. I think that that's our responsibility as a town. It's going to promote safe ATV access to do that. There was a part of me that says we should do it for free, but I can't justify that. And the Sportsman's Association may be willing to partner with us next year to have something produced that can then be distributed over the counter that promotes their organization and their work, but then also promotes ATV safety here. So you have that in this draft form, which is really the document that we issued to the public. It does talk about 500 yards on public ways for trail access. And then the other big change was the potential to leave the trails open until December 1st. So it was November 1st. It's proposed to be December 1st, but the other added language is pending spring and winter weather conditions. So a lot of towns leave their trails open, local trails open until the first snow fly. So moving it to December 1st very likely gets us to that. So the regulations about restrictions about the airport naval landfill, those are in place. And then it's a matter of working with the Sportsman's Association to make sure that signage is there. The policy is always subject to review. The authorization is subject to review. We can pick out roads or add roads. Can't add roads because they're all here now. And then we are waiting to hear back from the state on the top. I have gone in and developed a Google Earth map that color codes all of our local roads for trails. So you can see that. And then I've taken the 500 yards in each direction on state routes. So you're able to see that visually. And then I've highlighted Where those gaps are of connecting state routes, and that will be our target with the state if they decline the Sportsman's Association's request. We're gonna jointly go in and ask for those short sections. It's looking very good, like I said earlier, in terms of accomplishing largely what we want. We're not gonna be able to have our cake and eat it too, but I think if we can get our primary roads connected to the downtown, then we're doing very well. Things like Oak Hill, they wouldn't be able to access down Route 2. We're gonna work with Smithfield, hopefully, to get them to be able to come up and then come back down Wilder Hill. Wilder Hill would gain their access by this state opening up Airport Road, which is what looks like it's gonna happen. Because by 500 yards from the end of Wilder Hill to Rebecca Street, or Pine Street rather, that gives you all this expanded access. So we have noted a few different areas that we need to focus on, and we're gonna see that through with the state after that. But pretty much you're gonna be able to go from the Madhouse Grill, Old Wentworth's Diner, that will through public road access bring you all the way downtown. West will get you 500 yards west on Route 2 of Frederick Corner Road. Madison Road is going to pretty much all be connected, and you'll use Father All Road. And then southbound on Route 8, that's a big limitation there. And that'll get you 500 yards south of McIntyre Road is the furthest south public road that you have there.
Oh, right, yeah, okay, I wasn't even.
Right. So-
Yes.
Does the 500 yard thing go away if the state just approves state roads, or have they already come back and said no?
So I had a preliminary indication, which then caused me to contact the state senator and indicate that we were probably going to ask for legislation to be submitted to put us in the test community or whatnot. We're not sure. There's a meeting next week and they're pushing back, I think, on safety is their primary position, Department of Transportation's position. And if that is the reason for rejection, then my recommendation to the board is going to be to request either that trial legislation that says the town of Norridgewock will be a trial community on state routes and will be evaluated after this period of time, or file a piece of legislation that then limits animals, pedestrians, motorcycles, cyclists,
All
on
on
state routes. If it's in the name of safety, then we have concerns about those individuals as well.
And that's what makes the big bucks.
It's a big talk about, and obviously that's not going to be popular, so it wouldn't be successful, but that's the conversation.
Is that certain state senator still on the transportation committee?
I believe so. Yeah, I said animals. I believe so. I think the board making a decision once we know a little bit more. We'll have some. Oh, how's that? I think the fact that they sent a unanimous letter supporting the Sportsman's Association request should have carried a little bit more gravity with the statement that did. I think it was quickly discarded and then intentionally caught up in bureaucracy. The application's been on DOT's desk for about 8 months now, and they just ignored it. And they've ignored it until I really went after them. They've point blank ignored requests from the Sportsman's Association. And it wasn't until I ran it up the ranks that I got a response, and then came the meeting at the request of DOT. So
Do we have any timeline updates on the passability of the train trestle and then the other bridge that's like next over? Yeah,
yes and no. The project has been bid out, I believe, and awarded for the train trestle. The state's target date for completion on the contract was June 30th. Whether or not that's still a realistic date, I do not know. I know that they still have landowner relation concerns. Here in town, out of town, in the next town up, those exist. So I can't give you an answer.
we just have no idea when it's gonna open
It's
up.
a state project.
It sounded good, and then after my last conversation, it sounded like a lot of the landowner problems in our direct area had been essentially resolved. Or there was a plan in place to take, so it sounded good, or at least that's the way they painted it.
Well, yeah, and my latest thing with Brian was it seems as though folks that may have concerns are not being responsive, so we don't want this, so the state says, this is my interpretation. I don't want this, the state says it's going to happen, what can we do to minimize our impact on you? And then when that question goes back, there's no answer. He had a meeting set up with a landowner downtown, and the meeting was canceled at the last minute. So they're really working hard. They've asked us to help facilitate, Senator Farron's helping to facilitate these relationships. And some we're just not able to get anywhere with. There's concerns about the building, the apartment building on the train tracks on Main Street. And honestly, it's looking like it needs to be wider. And I said, we might be able to support that locally. Because of its location, because of its egress, points of egress, there's not gonna be egress feedback to the building, things like that. So I'm trying to facilitate all of that stuff. Help facilitate all of that stuff. But Brian's gonna be load on his plate to deal with, and yeah, he's the head of the ATV program. And the thought was that the whole rail trail would be open this fall. But who knows where that's gonna be, if there's injunctions, if it does go to court, there's been discussion publicly about class action lawsuits and things like that. If that comes to fruition, then there could be court ordered injunctions from the trail opening and whatnot.
All right.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have no motions right on that, that's just not it.
Nope, it is a motion to authorize the local roads for ATV trails for 2023.
So moved.
Motion and second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Everybody?
And that was all the roads now?
Yeah.
And the Google Earth thing that I had mentioned will release that for public consumption.
Okay, definitely.
Once we have a meeting, just taking a better idea, we don't want to fall asleep.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And the roads are not open on May 1st until they're appropriately signed.
Right.
So the public needs to be very much aware of that.
You guys want to sign?
We will go to require that. So that,
Okay. Okay, moving forward, discussion action on proposal of tax acquired property.
I'll try to keep it brief and with discretion. I have two tax acquired properties. One is 257 Oak Hill Road. One is a small parcel on Airport Road. Those parcels, I sent you the information on in your packets, and they're in your packets today. Yesterday I got a call. There's a homeowner assistance program, and they pay back the owner of the home on Oak Hill has applied for assistance. And I have it in writing from Maine Housing that they are going to pay all of their back taxes.
Excellent.
This current year's taxes, because we own it April 1st. And then all of our fees. I sent in the amount of 10.
Who's paying it?
It's a program, the homeowner assistance program. It's administered by Maine Housing and KV Cap. It's federal money, 50 million in federal dollars comes to the state. If they don't award it in like the next 6 months, it has to go back to the feds. So they're going to pay that $10,319.47, which covers all of our costs and fees, back taxes in 2023 forecast. If you'd like to learn more about the program, you can look for HAF mainhousing.org. And honestly, there's a lot of opportunity there for folks that have slid behind on their mortgages, their electric bills, their internet, their cell phone, their fuel.
Is there any sort of like financial hardship that has to be shown, or is it just they don't pay the bill, they'll come?
No, you have.
You have to submit a lot. Isn't that the same program for people who are renting?
No, that program is over, and this one is much easier to qualify for.
Okay,
The household income of one in Somerset County is about $75,000, and you qualify for this.
What was that
Do not
again?
pay your taxes.
It's taxes, payments, it's all of those basic household necessities. And you're right, you fall behind 1 month, they'll pay that 1 month, and then they'll pay 3 months ahead for you. Forecast. It's very similar to the water and sewer program.
how many times?
Pardon?
How many times?
Up to $50,000 per household, as long as the funds exist.
No.
It'd be cool if I didn't have to pay my taxes. I'd be-
I'm glad that's open.
Right, so in light of all of that,
That's the part that stinks is people need it.
Well, right, yes, right, it's there for a reason, but I'm glad it's working for them.
We're not gonna get off into the middle of that.
Yes.
Uh, The motion, please, would be to table action on this.
On just that one, on business.
No table action on the item of disposal of tax property.
Oh.
Because if it doesn't work out, then we're gonna put them all up. We need to keep it together. And then add costs and things can be shouldered by both. So.
Okay, get into. All in favor? Discussion action on.
We have received the monthly donation of $100 goes to the owner for year to support communities food access.
I move to accept donation.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, it's everybody. Any other donation? Other business? Nothing.
Well, you put, bids and philanthropic grants
On the
on the
next
future
agenda.
agenda.
Yep, I have a note on the last page. Yep.
Right on.
I do just need everybody to hang around and sign all those appointments.
Fun.
All right, then I move to adjourn.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, everybody?
You run out of tickets and you can skip mine.